It is worth noting, and perhaps you're watching Newsmax TV for the first time, just want you to know that earlier this week I had the opportunity to speak in depth with former Alaska Governor and Vice Presidential nominee Sarah Palin. We'll be airing that interview for the rest of this week on Newsmax Prime at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So make it a point to tune in tomorrow night to hear what Sarah has to say, not only about the GOP presidential candidates for 2016, but also about some top issues Americans care deeply about. And speaking of caring deeply about issues, we have assembled a focus group tonight, and John Bachman is there with them. So John, back over to you.
JD, thanks a lot. And we just heard Roger Stone, Dick Morris, and Steve Malzberg talking about some of the questions coming from the moderators during tonight's debate. And I wanted to get a take from everybody because there was one particular question that stood out to me particularly, and it was asked to Ben Carson about foreign policy and what he would do if he were commander-in-chief. And we'll play that clip and we'll get reaction from you all on the other side of that clip. Let's take a listen.
You have to be able to look at the big picture and understand that it's actually merciful if you go ahead and finish the job rather than death by 1,000 pricks.
So you are okay with the deaths of thousands of innocent children and civilians? It's like...
You got it. You got it.
That is what war... Can you be as ruthless as Churchill was in prosecuting the war against the Nazis?
Ruthless is not necessarily the word I would use, but tough, resolute, understanding what the problems are, and understanding that the job of the President of the United States is to protect the people of this country and to do what is necessary in order to get it done.
All right, a couple things about that. Who thought that question, asking Ben Carson if he's willing to kill innocent children, was out of line? Yeah, everybody can all agree. And also the audience there in the debate agreed with him. Who thought Ben Carson did a kind of masterful job of turning that question around as well? And again, we've seen Ben Carson falling in the polls. Again, probably too late for him to do that. We have seen this as a theme throughout these debates hosted from the Fox debate, the first one, through this one. Has there been a significant change, do you guys think, by a show of hands, in the line of questioning? Has it gotten to the point where you feel like this is more about the candidates than about the people in the networks hosting the debate? Do you guys agree? Elaine?
I think it's the questions toned down. They're not baiting the candidates as they were before. It was actually a very fascinating debate for one major reason. The entire 2 hours was basically based on terrorism. It would be hard to believe that this late in the game that a presidential campaign would only be focusing on one issue. It's indicative of how the American public, I think, are consumed with this issue right now, and rightly so. And I think Dr. Carson handled it very well. And the fact that you had called Churchill ruthless was more revelatory of Hewitt's own thinking. Since when is one of the major heroes of Western civilization described as ruthless?
Right. Some editorialization going on there, Tom?
Well, I think the candidates, through their professional consultants, have realized that, hey, we've got to tone it down amongst each other. The networks, especially CNN, really tried their best to pit each other against each other on topics and start fights within, as far as who's climbing up. So I think that the candidates overall, everyone on up on the dais, did a terrific job of controlling that. And it was up to them to do that, and they really, I think they kind of made, a couple of times they made CNN look foolish.
So they're figuring it out. I thought another remarkable part of the debate was when Donald Trump was complaining about the debate being so much about Donald Trump. Ed, go ahead.
Look, the process was benefited, though, from the fact that you had a little bit of pitting between Trump and Jeb Bush and Rubio and Cruz. You saw the difference, or the slight differences between Cruz and Rubio, and you saw Jeb Bush challenge Donald Trump. That actually is good for the process. Whether or not Jeb Bush benefits in the polls or not, he had a pretty good performance, but it benefits Trump if he's the ultimate nominee, because he's now been challenged in the debate directly. Because if people think that Hillary Clinton's not going to challenge Donald Trump, they're wrong.
Certainly.
And it's a good process to have.
Now, you mentioned Cruz and Rubio. We have a clip of their exchange, one of the more heated exchanges during the debate. Let's take a listen to that.
I'm very proud to have joined with conservatives in both the Senate and the House to reform how we target bad guys. And what the USA Freedom Act did is it did two things. Number one, it ended the federal government's bulk collection of phone metadata of millions of law-abiding citizens. But number two, and the second half of it that is critical, it strengthened the tools of national security and law enforcement to go after terrorists.
Senator Rubio, Senator Cruz is right. There was bipartisan support for that, but you voted against it. So is Senator Cruz wrong?
He is, and so are those that voted for it. There were some that voted for it because they wanted to keep it alive, and they were afraid the whole program would expire. Here's the world we live in. This is a radical jihadist group that is increasingly sophisticated in its ability, for example, to radicalize American citizens, in its ability to exploit loopholes in our legal immigration system, in its ability to capture and hold territory in the Middle East, as I outlined earlier, in multiple countries. This is not just the most capable, it is the most sophisticated terror threat we have ever faced. We are now at a time when we need more tools, not less tools. And that tool we lost, the metadata program, was a valuable tool that we no longer have at our disposal.
All right, so a key debate here that we are having in this country right now, our right to privacy versus the need for surveillance. And I wanted to ask you, Lisa Ruth, former CIA analyst, during this exchange, since you know a lot more than the rest of us about what actually goes on in these types of situations, who do you think won that exchange?
I don't think it was about the facts, actually. I don't think it really mattered as much who was right or who was wrong. I think that they both did a good job of holding their ground, and it strikes me that both of these, what we were saying earlier, have been very well coached, I think. They're better able to articulate their positions. I think they're less afraid of putting that out there. I actually thought Rubio did well. I disagreed with Mr. Morris. I thought Rubio did well. I thought Cruz did well as well. I thought they both had a strong performance.
They're on two separate sides of this issue. And you know, again, what we need to keep us safe. As a former CIA analyst, in that particular debate, who do you think was on the right side of history?
You know, my view is that I think any tool that the intelligence community has that helps us analyze information is useful. So although I don't like the idea of it, I do think metadata is incredibly important, and I think it does help in catching terrorists. It's been proven to help catch terrorists. It's unfortunate and it's uncomfortable, but from the intelligence community, I can assure you all my colleagues like it.
Certainly seems to be the case, and I know that debate isn't going away. And guys, don't go away. We got one more time. We're going to check back in with you, and Dick, we promise we'll get you to weigh. I know you got some stuff you want to weigh in on as well. We're going to be coming right back. The Newsmax post-debate special continues right here. We'll be coming right back after these short, few commercial words.